In northeastern England, there is a football club called Newcastle United. They joined the English Football League long ago in 1893. They won several trophies in the early 1900s. After that, their success almost came to a standstill. It was bought and sold by many owners, but they failed to bring the team success. Newcastle was hovering at the bottom of the table in 2021. The fans were getting frustrated when something surprising happened.
19 Premier League clubs are up in arms about the sale of Mike Ashley's Newcastle United to Saudi investors.
Saudi Arabia is bringing hope to thousands of football fans in Newcastle.
I think it's absolutely amazing. It's fantastic. Something we needed, the team needed, everybody needed, the fans. Look, we wouldn't get this in Manchester or Man City, Man United.
Club of football, we take over the league, the cups, Champions League, everything.
It's a religion, basically. We live and breathe it. Anywhere else, any investment whatsoever in the area, it's great. Not just necessarily the team, the whole area.
It was a huge deal for Newcastle United, but just the tip of the iceberg of Saudi Arabia's master plan. Over the past few years, Saudi Arabia has spent over $10 billion into sports, clubs and sponsorships. So what is Saudi Arabia even trying to do?
Expressed their outrage. The Human Rights Watch group accused Saudi Arabia's public investment fund and the PGA of enabling the kingdom to, quote, sportswash its human rights record.
Arabia's sports minister says claims of sports washing against the country are very shallow.
Well, if it's sport washing, going to increase my GDP by 1%, and then I will continue doing sport washing.
Al Hilal have signed Neymar, the Brazilian superstar from Paris Saint-Germain.
Breaking news, Cristiano Ronaldo has signed for Saudi side Al Nassr. They have now confirmed it on their Twitter page.
One family has been dominantly ruling over Saudi Arabia over a very long time. The Al Sauds. The Al Saud has been a part of Arabia's political story back from the 1700s, but it was only in the early 1900s when the Sauds took over Arabia with the help of the people from an ultra-conservative sect of Islam, the Wahhabi movement. The Al Saud then became an absolute monarch of Saudi Arabia and implemented strict Wahhabi principles on his people. It affected daily life like strict dress codes, segregation of sexes and strict adherence to the Islamic law. Women were given very little rights, including limitations in education and forceful enrollment to just domestic roles like managing households and supporting families. All these principles were well executed, but not for long. All thanks to
oil.
Till date, Saudi Arabia has been the largest exporter of crude oil in the world. Oil is almost solely responsible in shaping the current condition of Saudi Arabia. The exportation of oil to various countries all over the globe not only brought them hundreds of billions of dollars, but also helped them gain one very important thing: influence. The wealth and influence combined helped Saudi Arabia have a secured grip on its power and economy. So secure that they never felt the need of diversification. Though it's a huge over-dependency on one regime, it works pretty fine for Saudi Arabia until and unless the demand for oil exists. Scientists predict that the demand of oil will start decreasing rapidly over the next few years. And for a country like Saudi Arabia, which is so heavily dependent on oil, even a slight decrease in demand means the economy is in trouble. To an approximate, only about 20 years remain for Saudi Arabia to rewire its economy and diversify as much as possible, or else the collapse will be as quick as the growth of Saudi Arabia. On 23rd January 2015, Mohammed bin Salam, MBS as he is often referred to as, became the effective ruler of Saudi Arabia after the death of King Abdullah. He was another ruthless leader. He launched a bloody war in Yemen that caused various controversies. Muhammad was also involved in the escalation of the Qatar diplomatic crisis as well as the 2018 diplomatic dispute with Canada. Also, a CIA report found that Muhammad had orchestrated the assassination of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. It is even reported that death penalties have doubled in his reign. So bin Salman is another similar Saudi ruler, or is it? If we keep all this information aside, there has been one significant change in his reign. A rapid decline in the Wahhabi principles has been observed. He gave Saudi women the right to drive, have jobs and travel alone. Not only that, he is also permitting music festivals, movie theaters and various other cultural events. And this is happening for the very first time in Saudi Arabia. Now, he's not doing all this just because he feels that these are the rights that must be given to the people. But logically speaking, if you have 50% of your population doing nothing and sitting at their homes, this means you're economically inefficient and there is no other way out. In 2016, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia launched a program called the Saudi Vision 2030. This government program aims to achieve the goal of increased diversification economically, socially and culturally, in line with the vision of the Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman. The Vision 2030 is backed by the Public Investment Fund, PIF as it is called, which is probably one of the largest sovereign wealth fund of the world, with a total asset of about $925 billion. The task of the PIF is to invest this money into various other sectors which can help Saudi Arabia to regain its power and influence. From all these reports collected from the official site of PIF, we already know that PIF has invested about $933 million in a housing complex in Riyadh, about $8.5 billion in the Red Sea project, and about $500 billion in an upcoming high-tech city called NEOM. They have also invested huge amount of money into various companies all across the globe. These investments will not only earn them revenue but will also help them to exert a worldwide influence. Now, what's more interesting is how will sports play a role in this growth of Saudi Arabia. The PIF paid $391 million to buy a majority stake in Newcastle United. They also spent several millions to sign new players. The club, which ended in the 19th position in the 2021 Premier League season, bagged the 4th position the very next year. They also secured a spot in the Champions League tournament. While this investment was far less than PIF's other investment, they know quite well what fan loyalty can bring to the table. They have been seeing their neighbors doing this for years, with the Emirates of Abu Dhabi taking over Manchester City and Qatar taking over PSG. This would help them bring influence in the UK, as the fans are now happy to see their club succeed and they're not much aware of all these geopolitical agendas behind these moves. Also, in 2023, they bought a major sponsorship with AS Roma, a football club in Italy. The same year, PIF bought the majority stakes in Saudi Arabia's top 4 football clubs: Al Hilal, Al Nassr, Al Ittihad and Al Ahli. They also spent almost $1 billion to sign world-class football players to play for their clubs. The 2023 summer transfer window saw Saudi Pro League spend a record $957 million, second only to Premier League's transfer of a total of $1.39 billion. Their main objective of signing all these popular players was not only to increase the quality of the clubs, but also to create a hype and to increase the popularity of the Saudi League. It is also reported that Saudi Arabia was the only nation to submit a bid in time for FIFA's deadline of 31st October 2023 and will host the FIFA World Cup 2034. Their investments were not confined to only football. In 2021, they spent about $2 billion to create a brand new golf league, the Live Golf, and spent billions more to sign some of the world-class golf players. The same year, they spent about $500 million to sponsor McLaren, a F1 car manufacturer from the UK. Sports helped Saudi Arabia to keep its population under control. Majority of Saudi Arabia's population are under the age of 35, and by 2022, majority of them were unemployed. Earlier, this combination proved to be dangerous for autocratic regimes nearby. The average age of an Arab Spring protester was 26 years old. So this Gen Z population is an actual threat to the ruling family, as they could get restless and place huge demands before the government. The only way to keep the population satisfied is to provide them food and to keep them entertained, which was once called as bread and circus. Today, circus means sports. Saudi Arabia spent about $65 million every year to host the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix, a Formula One racing event. They have spent so far $140 million to host professional boxing matches and $100 million every year to host WWE wrestling events. Saudi also hosts the world's richest horse race, the Saudi Cup. It is also reported to host the 2029 Winter Asian Games and is also interested to host an Olympic. This year, the months of July and August saw the organization of the 2024 Esports World Cup, an annual international esports tournament series run by the Esports World Cup Foundation, funded by the PIF. This event took place in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia and featured 23 events in 22 different video game titles. What's more surprising is that it had a combined prize pool of about $60 million, which is the largest prize pool in the esports history. All these numbers are mind-boggling, but by buying sports, Saudi is buying influence. If we want to summarize the main objective of all these measures, many people like to refer it as sports washing. So what is even sports washing? Sports washing is the use of sports to improve an individual or a group's reputation, especially when they're involved in controversy or scandal. It can involve a variety of activities such as hosting large sports events, investing in teams and leagues, or sponsoring tournaments. The simple goal of sports washing is to divert the public attention away from unethical conduct and to improve the reputation of the offending entity. For example, Russia utilized sports washing during the 2018 World Cup by leveraging the global attention of the event to portray a positive image of the country, attempting to deflect criticism from international human rights concerns regarding its treatments of dissidents, LGBTQ individuals, and minority groups, effectively using the tournament as a propaganda tool to appear more welcoming and progressive than its reality. Quite comparable to Nazi Germany's tactics of using the 1936 Berlin Olympics for similar purposes. So can we classify Saudi Arabia's all these measures as sports washing? Is Arabia investing so heavily into sports just to portray to the world that it's a progressive and a welcoming country? Well, the word sports washing falls short in this case because it ignores the major reason why Saudi Arabia is investing into sports. It is because its future lies on it. Saudi Arabia is trying to divert its economy as much as possible away from oil, and this is just the beginning.